All right, I'm the Flatratemaster, and today we're talking latex gloves versus nitrile. Going for the Michael Jackson look today. So we're talking gloves. Now, when I started back in the day, these had a lot of bad connotations. Lots of bad nicknames that are not YouTube safe, so I'm not going to say them. And please don't put them in the comments because they'll go right to check for review, so don't say them, but we all know them. And if you young guys don't know them, ask your teacher, ask your senior techs in the shop. They'll tell you what they used to call them. Back when I started, nobody wore gloves. Nowadays is way different. Safety, personal protection equipment is important. Use it. Gloves are one of those things. So now, to preface this video, I prefer latex over nitrile, but it comes down to a lot of it personal preference. Now, nitrile I think actually fit my hand better, but we'll get into some other reasons why I don't like them. Latex tend to be a little less tight. Now, nitrile for me, when I'm trying to turn like a nut or a bolt by hand, I don't feel I get as good of a grip than I do with latex. One thing about nitrile that is big is chemical resistance. I have these gloves specifically for the parts washer. You put these gloves in the parts washer fluid, aka mineral spirits, they don't dissolve. These, well, basically they swell up and they do nothing. So I don't use these in the parts washer. I use these. Hence why I have them. One of the things I do not like about nitrile gloves is the lack of reusability for me. I'm fortunate in this shop, the boss provides us gloves. He actually buys both latex and nitrile. So we have the option. I still use the latex for 99% of what I do. He buys them, so I try to get as much uses out of them as I can. So I tend to, if they're still good, take them off. If it's summer and they're sweaty, I let them sit and dry out, and then I can put them back on. And reuse them. Get as much use out of them as I can. I came into that back in the day when I had to buy my own gloves, and they're not cheap. So now, before I get the question, that's the brand we use. We get them from a supply woman that does our paper products and gloves, and they're pretty good. They're not as good as, say, Diamond Grips, but the boss buys them, so I'm not going to complain. Now, the nitrile gloves, these are not what we use. These are actually gloves I got from the JTC truck. They gave them to us to try out, but with them, I have a much harder time reusing them. And I wind up, obviously I haven't been working on cars, but I generally wind up having trouble reusing them. They don't want to go back on. They've kind of shrunk a little bit, so I wind up tearing them a lot. One of the big things is you have to worry about latex allergies. If you start breaking out on your hand where the latex touches you, you probably have an allergy to it. It is unfortunately pretty common. So if you're doing that, you're stuck with nitrile. One of the things I really prefer about latex is, as I just do that, is the resistance to tears. Now they'll tear, but generally you don't take a big chunk out of it, like that. That's one of the things I do not like about nitrile gloves, and they kind of go apart. That's one of the big issues I find with nitrile is they tend to kind of just, when you get a small tear in them, they don't go just itty bitty. They kind of just, so you get a tear and it kind of just might tear a little bit more, but they're still usable. So you lose a finger, you know, the glove's not useless. You tear a nitrile glove, of course it doesn't do it, but you get a tear and it keeps tearing and it keeps tearing and it keeps tearing, whereas the latex still somewhat protects your hand. Whereas with the nitrile, you keep losing more and more and more until you basically have a finger. Now I'm obviously doing this as an example of the worst cases of these gloves. Is try not to catch my fingernail. Is, you know, it's much easier to tear a nitrile glove over a latex glove, which is why I don't like them, because I can just tear it apart. Whereas with the latex, it tends to be a little bit more resilient, hence why I don't like them. Latex is a lot harder to get complete failure on. Ugh. And again, it's still kind of usable. That's why my preference is latex. But honestly, it comes down to personal preference. What you prefer, what works best for your budget. And for the old guys that tell people that, you know, only, you know, certain people wear mittens, stop it. That's why you can't hear anymore. Hearing protection, eye protection, gloves. Hope you liked this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like it, subscribe. Make sure and hit that bell notification so you get notified when I put out a new video. You didn't like the video? Give me a thumbs down. Yeah, I know I was a little hard on the gloves, but we're hard on gloves every day. So thanks for watching. I am the Flat Rate Master.